Sorry, dropped it. Hello, Stonehenge! Who takes the Pandorica, takes the universe. But bad news, everyone! 'Cause guess who? Ha! Except you lot, you all whizzing about up there. It's very quite distracting. Can you all sit still a moment? Because I am talking! Now, the question of the hour is, who's got the Pandorica? Answer, I do. Next question, who's gonna take it from me? Come on, look at me. No plans, no backup, no weapons worth a damn. Oh, and something else I don't have. Anything to lose. So if you're sitting up there in your silly little spaceships with all those silly little guns, just remember who's standing in your way. Remember every black day I ever stopped you. And then, do the smart thing and let someone else try first. Hello and welcome back to the Doctor Who Marathon. I'm your host McEdam, and today we're going to be talking about the Series 5 finale, The Pandorica Opens and The Big Bang, written by Stephen Moffat and is directed by Toby Haynes. This story, as I stated, is a combination of all of Series 5 with many elements and themes, and obviously the storyline, which has been continuing on from the Crack in Time and the Silence Will Fall storyline, gets concluded in this story in some way, shape or form. However, unlike most series finale, it does actually set up for next series as well, with certain elements still left unanswered. So this is a very unique series finale in terms of when it aired, as it was the first series finale that did leave stuff in the air for plot lines to continue on from the other series. When this story aired, it was incredibly unpopular. It was a story in which a lot of people thought it was an absolute mess, with elements and characters and creatures appearing only for them to really do nothing with the concept. However, over time, it has gained a much better reputation to the point now that some consider it, a lot of people consider it, one of their favourite series finales. And Stephen Moffat has even gone on record and saying that The Big Bang is one of his favourite episodes he had ever written. And the story is also kind of personal to me as well, because this was actually the first, during the two episodes, my sister was born. So I always have that distinct memory. She was born the day after, well, technically she was born in the night of the Pandorica Opens, but in the day of the day after. And so Big Bang was the first episode I watched when I had a younger sister. So that's a really cool little fact about me, I guess. So I just have a lot of good memories with this. I remember really enjoying this story when it was released. Though I was disappointed that not everything was answered at that time. But I remember really enjoying it and having a lot of blast and having fun and doing my best to actually try to defend this story to my mates. I remember going into school the day after, and I literally had to convince people that this story was good. That's weird to say now, but it's 100% true. And that is just so weird to think about, because opinions change a lot, and with certain ideas and certain themes, I do actually think now this story is a bit overrated. And I feel like now the tables have turned, in a sense, where people didn't like it when it came out, and now it's become this phenomenal, highly appreciated series and series finale. And I think the other way. I really enjoyed it and had to defend it when it aired, but now I feel like certain elements shouldn't be praised when it shouldn't. But yeah, it's very complicated. Not to say I didn't like it, but I think that a lot of elements which a lot of people like about the story actually detract from my personal enjoyment of the story. So, yeah, what did I think about it? How do I come to that conclusion? Well, shall we kick into the episode? I will state, I clearly think that the Pandorica opens is 1,000 times better than the Big Bang. That's just my opinion. I do like the a more focused environment and the more focused storyline telling in the Pandorica opens. In the Stephen Moffat era, began a trend in which two-parters, part one and part two, would feel vastly different with each other, and we've seen this throughout. Series 5 as well, with Flesh and Stone and Time of the Angels having one episode set in a stony environment and one of them set in a forestry environment and some futuristic tunnels, whilst in Hungry Earth and Cold Blood you've got one story in which is set mainly in a little village and has a much more mundane feel, whilst then part two is mainly set in the underground Earth where we see in the Silurian's environment. So that trend continues on here with Pandorica opens and Big Bang feeling really like two completely different episodes. And if it wasn't for the fact that the storylines are heavily connected, you could have easily just watched one without the other in that regard. It's very good at keeping interest in the story, as you're not sticking to one environment through for the majority of both episodes. So that's really cool. So let's start with the pre-credit sequence of the Pandorica opens. This is cool. This is really cool. We get to see Van Gogh having some sort of he's having like an emotionally turmoil moment. He's screaming, he's shouting, and he seems to have painted a very particular painting which was made specifically for the Doctor. Van Gogh, of course, appeared in the story Vincent and the Doctor, that appeared in Series 5. And here he gets a cameo where we set up this painting. How he knows about all this and stuff, we could... I don't know if the story's trying to imply that Van Gogh was secretly tortured because he was in some way or form psychic. I hope that's not what Stephen Moffat's implying. But you could make the argument as the crack in time had filled Van Gogh's head with this sort of new madness which allowed him to paint this particular painting for the Doctor. We then cut to World War II and we see Ian McNeice return as Winston Churchill, and he's talking to the professor, I can't remember his name, from Victory of the Daleks. So we've gone from one cameo to another cameo, and of course we've set up that the Doctor and Winston Churchill are friends from Victory of the Daleks, where they've discovered that there is a painting, a secret painting inside a wall, which is the painting which is at the earlier episode, and they clearly work out that it's something to do for the Doctor. It's a message for the Doctor, and that they're here just to deliver it. They're here to try and keep it safe until the Doctor arrives. That should then mean that canonically, Winston Churchill never met the Doctor after Victory of the Daleks. Or at least not after this cameo segment in the story, which I believe is inaccurate in terms of the larger canon of Doctor Who. So maybe just Winston Churchill just forgot he had a secret Van Gogh painting. Then we cut to River Song after she gets a phone call from Winston Churchill, who couldn't get an answer from the Doctor, but instead it connected him to the prison that River Song is contained, and she learns about this painting. So she breaks out of her prison using the lipstick that we've previously seen her in Time of Angels and Flesh and Stone. She goes to, I can't remember which one she does first. I think she goes to Starship UK, and we meet Liz 10 again from the episode The Beast Below, in which they rediscover the painting from a secret art gallery. River Song basically is like, we need the Doctor for this. This is something vastly important. It could save every single person ever. So please just let me take it. I know I'm a friend of the Doctor. And so Liz 10 gives her the painting. Then we go to, I can't remember what it's called, but it's here that we meet Dorian for the first time. He has a small cameo in this. Dorian is this like blue guy. He's like a merchant of sorts. He works in the black market. He has a cameo here, but I guess so many people really enjoyed his performance. I can't remember the actor who played him, but he was, I don't know, he's such a memorable little moment in this story that he surprisingly gets a lot of appearances in Series 6. He becomes essentially another galactic friend of the Doctor in Series 6. So you could say that this scene is a tease for his future involvement. However, it doesn't distract from this story, which is great. We then, River Song goes there so she could get a vortex manipulator so she could travel back in time to help the Doctor out. We then cut to the Doctor and Amy, and the Doctor's had a fantastic idea. He takes Amy Pond to Planet 1, which is considered by many historical intergalactic historians to be the first planet ever made. And the Doctor explains that on the cliff face of the planet, there are words, ancient words, seemingly spoken by the gods. And all the Doctor and Amy had to do is step outside and read the words, as the TARDIS translation circuits would translate the language into English for them. To which they arrive and they see on the cliff face of the planet, "Hello, sweetie," and some galactic coordinates, leading it directly into the episode. A lot of cameos, a lot of teasers. It does feel like a massive event, and it feels like that every episode in Series 5, in some way, shape or form, has been building up to this story, which gives it a much more dramatic feel. And the best thing about it at this point in the story is that these cameos, these things, are to set up and don't distract from the main story. It mainly is just getting this painting to one part or the other, but because it's gone through so many hands in the Doctor Who canon, it means that the story is very intrigued into this piece of painting, showing how important this storyline means to the Doctor and the environment and companions around. So that is really cool. So now let's get into the main event. The Pandorica opens. We take Amy Pond, the Doctor takes Amy Pond to Roman times, as that's the galactic coordinates it says on River Song's graffiti. And Amy points out that Romans were one of her favourite subjects in school, to which the Doctor finds bizarrely odd. They go down as somebody greets them, believing that the Doctor is Caesar, and says that Cleopatra is ready to meet them, only for Cleopatra to really be River Song, who takes the disguise of Cleopatra so that she can have these armies of Romans. And River Song shows the Doctor the painting of Van Gogh, showing the TARDIS exploding, something which has been teased before in stories such as the two-parters, coming to think about it, Times of Angels and Flesh and Stone, Hungry Earth, and Cold Blood. So you've got that whole, the TARDIS exploding thing. So let's actually talk about this teaser in other episodes, because I think you might have described, but I felt like, though this element of the story really works here, I felt like having this crack in time, having this element of the TARDIS exploding, affect these other stories in such a big dramatic way, where the endings of those stories just completely just take away from the main narrative they're telling, I thought was very distracting in those stories, and felt like it weakened those stories to just feel like setups for this story, which is a terrible way to end a story which is much more singular, much more standalone in focus, all of a sudden to be revealed to be like, oh no, it's the crack in time, oh no, Rory's dead, oh no, Rory's invisible now, oh no, you set up the crack in time is actually eating away time, there's an explosion in time, oh no, it's something to do with Amy's time and the TARDIS is going to be about to explode. Completely distracts from those stories. However, it is used to set up this element here. You didn't really need it because the setup of the story was already strong enough. But yeah, that's just something I have a massive issue with. And the Doctor works out that the Pandorica, it's something to do with the Pandorica, as I believe the painting is called the Pandorica Opens, the name of the episode, as the Doctor realizes that, right, the Pandorica is one of the most dangerous things in the universe, but you would want to know where you kept it if you hid it around. And so we take our three main characters and take them to Stonehenge, where the Doctor quickly learns that underneath Stonehenge is a small basement of sorts. And when they go down, they discover Pandorica. Now let's talk about Toby Haynes directing here. He is a very slick director, and one of his most prominent, he's a very epic director. And one great visual storytelling here is when our characters open the doors to reveal the Pandorica. It has a very classic, epic feel to it. And according to, I believe it was Doctor Who Confidential, to get the scene, the feeling that they want, they got the actors to listen at the time of recording music from the Indiana Jones movie in which they break into temples, giving that same feeling. Speaking of John Williams' music, this story has a very Star Wars-y feel in terms of its directing as well. There's a lot of those fade swiping effects that in Star Wars is very popular. And as well, it seems like, I don't know if it could just be me, but I feel like Murray Gold's music here feels like it's trying to be John Williams. It's very epic and bombastic, and there's lots of those whistling noises, which John Williams is very really likes in his music as well. The music seems to try and replicate Star Wars in a way in which they don't use Star Wars motifs, but rather give their story a much more epic, a much more grandiose feel. And that is just not, and I think that's one of the reasons why this story is so well remembered. As well, we get into the Doctor and Amy, they're just like puzzled by this, and Amy points out that the Pandorica is similar to Pandora's Box, a fairy tale which she claims to be her favourite story as a child. And the Doctor kind of points out, it's like, hold on, Romans being your favourite subject, the Pandorica resembling the Pandora's Box being one of your favourite stories, that's a strange coincidence. Always, never ignore a coincidence unless you're busy, then always ignore a coincidence. I hate that line. That line does not feel like the Doctor at all. The Doctor would be the first one to try and work out, like if he notices a coincidence like this, which kind of feels very important and is very grandiose. I mean, after all, the Doctor knows that the TARDIS exploding is something to do with Amy's time. He should realise it. He should recognise, that this has something to do with Amy and try to solve that. But the fact that he just says like, we'll sort it out for later, is just clearly Stephen Moffat just wanting to like build up this premise, this idea. It's something which I did think kind of distracted from the story looking back. But it's only a small line, and the idea of the story was pretty obvious on why the scene had to be in there in some way, shape or form. whilst also trying to like ignore the fact for the moment that this seems to be all strangely connected to Amy's time. As the Doctor also points out that there's also a scene which also I think doesn't hold up well, and it's something which actually kind of becomes an issue with the Stephen Moffat era, and that is the Doctor keeping his companions, not because he genuinely enjoys them like he has done in the past, but because there's some sort of mystery surrounding them. This kind of retcons his reasoning on bringing her in the story 11th Hour. Here, the Doctor basically explains he didn't take Amy because he enjoyed her company, or whatever reason he gave her. Meanwhile, the TARDIS also explains that the reason he took her is because, you know, he can't see the magic of the universe. Having somebody who doesn't know much about the magic of the universe, seeing everything for the first time, kind of makes him see it again, if that makes any sense. But here, the Doctor explains that Amy's house is too big, and Amy's life doesn't make any sense. How could it be a duck pond without any ducks? That kind of, meaning that Amy's life, the Doctor took Amy because there was this mystery that he's trying to solve, rather than him generally enjoying her company. This, I think, really devalues their relationship, and it's quite annoying. I feel like this is an aspect which a lot of people didn't like at the time, which has kind of now been brushed over because, like I said, Series 5 is now kind of overrated. But yeah, it just kind of bothered me. The Doctor asks River Song about this signal because there's this massive signal that's been left out into the entire universe saying, "Come here, the Pandorica is here," as the Pandorica seemingly has started opening from the inside. Whatever the story, the Doctor tells a story about a goblin, a trickster, a warrior that destroyed the planet as soon as it arrived, just come out of nowhere with no warning, and then a wizard tricked it into going into the Pandorica and contained it from the rest of the universe. But now, for somehow, without every other like deadlock seal, which is also established to be one of the most important seals in the Doctor Who canon, seemingly he's been broken from the inside, and that whatever's inside is gonna get out. But the Doctor also realises that there's a signal bursting out, and so he gets River Song to listen into the signals, into which it's revealed that almost every other Doctor Who monster in its entire canon is coming to Stonehenge right now, being here in under an hour, with Daleks, Cybermen, Ice Warriors, Sontarans, the Hond, just a bunch of different monsters. Was the Absorbaloff there? I would love to know. The Slovene as well. Just a bunch of the Jadoon, that's another one. This scene is also important because, and those women from Galaxy 4, they also appear, which I also find really funny. This is also important because two monsters are actually mentioned, which are in Doctor Who novels. One of them being the crocodile turtle people from the 7th Doctor novel, The Higher Science, and another one, which according to Wikipedia, I can't remember what book it's from, I can't remember their name, but according to Wikipedia, they were such enemies of the Doctor that they would appear here, but in their story, their main plan was to come to Earth to try and find the biggest burger on the planet. That's just funny. We also get a Weevil from Torchwood, and we also get a mention of one of the alien races from the Sarah Jane Adventures. So that's really cool. The Doctor sends River, to go to back to the Roman camp to try and summon an army so that they can protect themselves from the danger that's yet to come. With them basically realizing that Cleopatra at this point is not only still in Egypt, but also dead. So who the hell River Song is? Clearly she's impersonating, and they realize. And so River Song basically shows that she's got this high tech, and a Roman soldier who we don't see at the moment basically trusts River enough to let her have an army who we don't see at the moment. Back at Stonehenge, Amy and the Doctor get attacked by a Cyberman, a cyber arm and a cyber head, before the final body gets revealed as the Doctor gets knocked out in the struggle. This is something which I think is also a downgrade on this episode, and becomes more prevalent when the series continues. That is, Stephen Moffat clearly doesn't like the Cybermen, or at least has very little interest in them. Their appearances are mainly always used, in fact, like with Russell T Davies as well, the Cybermen are mainly used to be like those monsters which, right, we need to have a monster here that doesn't get a lot of setup and doesn't need a lot of build-up, so we can contain with the story that we're telling. Let's use the Cybermen. Despite the Cybermen, I think, having a much better concept to them than the Daleks, with those, like, you know, they're basically zombies in these metal suits of armour, which kind of did it to themselves, unless you're going by the parallel universe origin. But it is really disappointing that the Cybermen just don't feel like Cybermen here as well. The idea of the Cybermen is that they struggle to survive. They are these living things that will do anything, augmentate themselves with robotics, turn their souls off, their emotions off, just to stay alive. And in here, I guess, controversial at the moment, again, something which is kind of ignored in future discussions of the story, is that we see the Cybermen open its head and we get the skull that's clearly rotted and it's just fallen out. So there is no living being inside the Cyberman suit. The Doctor claims that it's a Cyberman trying to look basically for new flesh, which kind of goes against what the Cybermen stand for, which happens a lot in the Stephen Moffat era, which is really frustrating, really annoying. And here, I don't think it was as bad as when you first watch it, but when you realise in hindsight how the Cybermen get treated in the Stephen Moffat era, it is kind of a precedent here for what later on goes in his series. Amy starts panicking and gets herself locked in a room at one point as the Cybermen starts trying to bash the door, only for the Cybermen to be destroyed after being stabbed in the chest by the mysterious Roman, which turns out to be Rory Williams returns. Clearly his this was meant to be a surprise and was built up from his appearance, where this sudden reveal is a sudden shock. Like, how is he back? How did he return? And Amy, of course, doesn't know him because due to the cracks in time, she has no memories of Rory, so that is a twist. I do love as well the humour surrounding Rory Williams and his strange relationships here, as well as the Doctor, his reaction when at first he just doesn't actually realise. He's just like, yeah, Rory, I know, she'd be alright. And then the Doctor's just basically explaining it away, and then he's like, there's something I'm missing, something right bam in front of me, and I can't see it. And then Rory's just like, yeah, I think you have. The Doctor's like, oh, I'll figure out in the moment. He walks off, and you hear him dropping stuff. Matt Smith comes back onto the set. He starts talking how the Darwell on the chest, and he's just like, okay, hello, how you been? Rory, not to be rude, but you died, and then you got erased from time. You never existed. That little scene, visually and actedly, comedic gold right there. That bit is just brilliant. Those little quirky moments. Toby Haynes, Arthur Darwell, Matt Smith completely nailed that scene. We also get the emotional grip of this part of the story in which Amy doesn't remember Rory, but Rory, first of all, he woke up just randomly as a Roman soldier with a life and experiences already in his head, believing that the Doctor and Amy were some sort of dream. at one point. However, when he heard about the ginger girl and the doctor, he thought that they came back for him, only for him to learn that Amy doesn't remember. And the doctor is surprised, he's stunned by this. However, he gets Rory to have the engagement ring to try and re-trigger Amy's memories and hope that they can reunite their relationship. This I'm kind of 50-50 on. The doctor, I like how the doctor is very, is pushing for Rory and Amy to get back together. I feel like that kind of is character growth for the 11th Doctor in a way, as he starts off his career, him and Rory as kind of like opposite sides, and they compete for Amy's attention. At one point, clearly stated in Amy's choice, which this story kind of ties up their emotional struggle in that story. But the Doctor knows, Rory is the man for Amy, and go get it, boy. But also as well, the Doctor again just completely ignores the fact that there's this giant mystery in that Rory has come back from not only being dead, but coming back from non-existence. That's really strange, that's really odd, it makes no sense. The Doctor's just like, yeah, just go get her. It's strange, it's a miracle. And sometimes the universe gives miracles, so go out and get her, boy. I feel like the Doctor wouldn't have that reaction there. I felt that was really out of character there. What's not out of character for the Doctor is what happens next, as all those spaceships, all the fleet, come into Stonehenge, ready to take the Pandorica from the Doctor. And the Doctor has a plan, but he also needs some equipment for the Pandorica. So he gets River Song, who is out of Stonehenge, to get some equipment in the TARDIS. So she goes into the TARDIS to try and fly it into the underneath Stonehenge. And so all of those ships, all of those and such a great visual moment where you've got all these aliens like pointing out their things at Stonehenge, as the Doctor, using nothing but words and his reputation to make this massive speech about how he stopped them all before with no plans, no backup, no weapons worth a damn. He can do it again. So, if you've got any plans, you better try it now, because there's nothing stopping me. You gotta think, what do you really after? As using just words, they dissipate and leave them for about an hour and a half to debate. That is Doctor Who. That is the Doctor at his most Doctor. That does make up for the Doctor having these little non-doctory moments, in my opinion, throughout the episode. And it's clearly one of the standouts, and what Stephen Moffat does really well is always, without question, the speeches of the Doctor. This would become a mainstay of his series. Maybe he does it a bit too much, and maybe he saw this story, saw how much praise he got from this speech, and it's just like, people love it when I make Doctor do speeches. Let's have him do more speeches. So this is kind of the start of that trend. Personally, I really like it. I think big winning battles with big massive speeches like this really fits into what Doctor Who really means. The Doctor does not fight people with weapons. He does not fight or kill his enemies. He reasons with them with words. He fights his enemies with speeches. That is the Doctor. That is Doctor Who. And it's one of the most memorable scenes. I think that a lot of people really enjoy this story, mainly on that speech. And I totally agree. The cliffhanger for part 1 sees a massive turn in event. It turns out that the Roman River Song takes the TARDIS, however, it seems to dematerialise in Amy's time and goes to Amy's house, where she sees these burnt marks and arrives at Amy's house. And she learns that in the picture books, Amy has seen these Roman soldiers before. Not just the same Roman soldiers, the exact same, as in the exact same people are in there, as well as a photo of Rory, which is maintained despite the cracks in time. And so River's song basically works out that these Roman soldiers cannot be real. It's all connected to Amy in some way, shape or form. As the Roman soldiers start activating, they seem to turn, and despite Rory trying to fight his the programming in his head, all of the Romans turned out to be Autons, enemies of the Doctor from stories like Spearhead from Space, Terror of the Auton, and Rose. I believe this is their first appearance since Rose, and also as well they capture the Doctor. Amy Pond realizes that she knows Rory, only for Rory to accidentally shoot her as the programming of the Auton gets the better of him. The Doctor again gets captured by the Autons and gets a message to River to get the leave out of that time zone, get her out of that time, as the crack in time is supposedly resonated on that exact date. But when River's song uses the TARDIS, it seems to be working. It seems like something is working, controlling the TARDIS, and is also out of her control. As we hear in the TARDIS, "Silence will fall. Silence will fall," which is a setup which we'll talk about later on. And then we basically learn about the Pandorica. As the Pandorica starts opening, the Doctor questions the Autons, like, what is it in there? Why is everyone fighting over it? As suddenly we hear a Dalek, then a Cyberman, then a Sontaran, as we get a group of some of the biggest Doctor Who monsters, probably some of the biggest, one of the biggest costume scenes in all of Doctor Who history. It's got all of these monsters from Doctor Who's canon just all meeting up for the first time in one scene, as they basically explain that that all of the Doctor's greatest foes have come into an alliance for the moment of the Pandorica's opening. What it contains? Nothing. It's a prison for the Doctor. They have made an alliance to create the biggest prison in the universe so that the Doctor cannot escape. Because they have seen the cracks in time. They have seen the universe implode on itself. And they've all worked out that it's the TARDIS that was the epicenter of the explosion. By keeping the Doctor in the Pandorica means that there is no way that the Doctor could activate the explosion, saving the universe. The Doctor Who's greatest monsters have come to save the universe. That is some pretty big concept. This is something which was very criticised going in when its stories first aired, and a lot of people seem to now really appreciate is that there's this alliance that was so fearful of the Doctor that they contained. It has been established in series prior that certain monsters here, especially the Daleks, would not agree to an alliance in any way, shape or form. They would not agree to this. As well as it feeling like you've got this cameo, and it's a very strangely shot scene. We got all of these creatures just so bubbling up together. It does kind of feel like a costume party in some way, shapes or form. But it is like really cool to see all the Doctor Who monsters together like this. And Matt Smith really nails the desperation in that scene where he's begging them not to do this. That he is not the one that destroys the universe. It's not him. Please listen to me. As they close the Pandorica on him, Amy is dead, and River Song realizes that the TARDIS is going to explode, and the doors open only to reveal a brick wall as she is stuck in the TARDIS as it starts to explode, destroying the universe. As the universe starts dying out, every sun in the galaxy has turned supernova, and that the entire universe is being wiped out one by one. And that is the cliffhanger for Pandorica Opens. This video has gone a bit too long, so join me for part 2 where we talk about the Big Bang. So I'll see you next time for part 2 of this vlog. I'll see you next time.